Well, hello, and welcome again to the 2012fat.com. I will be your host for this evening, and my name is Charlie Bluehawk. Last night we talked about Nationalize USA Inc. and how I originally thought that a safe, nonviolent, legal, non-threatening way to reclaim our country was to buy shares in each of the top 1,000 corporations, get together, pool our resources, and buy enough shares in each of the top 1,000 corporations, which would then give us access to attend the shareholders' meetings, give us access to the names and addresses of all the other shareholders, and then we could together contact all the shareholders, tell them what their corporation was really doing, and in this way, from a completely business point of view, we could take our country back. I called it Incorporate America. I talked about it on my last show, put up a website, and absolutely zero response. That concept died many years ago. The time for that came and went. The moment was there, and now it's gone. Now to get our country back, well, we've chatted about armed, peaceful revolt. You and a million of your closest personal friends, all with a gun, loaded, in clear, plain, visible sight. You're not a terrorist. You're a U.S. citizen. You have the right, under the Constitution, to bear arms, to protect yourself, your family, your neighbors, and your country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And you would also have a copy of the US Constitution on you. Strangely enough, having the US Constitution on you, or quoting the US Constitution to any member of the government known as the United States of America Incorporated, is against the law, and you can go to federal prison. You're a terrorist. You're a terrorist if you quote the US Constitution. Well, what I would do at that point is a million of your closest personal friends would go with you on a nice stroll to Washington, D.C., give your cousin Bob a call before you leave the house, and have him and a million of his closest personal friends, all with guns and the U.S. Constitution, visit Wall Street. And then, Aunt Mary, Cousin Susan, you might call them and have them visit the various state capitals, visit the FBI, the CIA, the IRS, the TSA, the Federal Reserve Bank, and do what a citizen of a constitutional republic would do. A citizen's arrest. You can pretty much figure out the rest of that story. And under the RICO Act, which our masters created to help, subdue competition for their business of being con men and thieves, under the RICO Act, you have the right to say, if I think you're a criminal, I can take all of your money, I can take your home, your car, your jewelry, everything you own, stocks, bonds, whatever is in your safety deposit box, and seize it because I think you're a criminal. I think you're a gangster. Well, I think Ben Bernanke is a gangster. I think Barack Obama is the front man for a group of gangsters. I think under the RICO Act, we as American citizens should do citizen's arrest on these folks and then seize their bank accounts. No destruction, no violence. Your gun is only for self-defense, nothing else. But you see, when we take our money back from these gangsters, these con men, we can then do something extraordinary. We can put it back in circulation. We can hire ourselves for our walk to Washington. We can hire prosecutors, attorneys, defense and, prosecution. We can hire judges. And you know what? Those people are going to need to eat and buy clothes and drive cars, so we can hire mechanics and truck drivers to bring food into town. It's amazing. All of a sudden, by using the RICO Act, we don't have to prove anything against Ben Bernanke or the Clintons or the Bushes or the Rockefellers or the Roosevelts. We could just say, I think you're a criminal. I'm taking everything you own. And don't forget their trust funds. Put that money back in circulation. All of a sudden, there's no depression. All of a sudden, there's no recession. All of a sudden, people are working. Money is in circulation. our money. And this can be done with no violence, no destruction. Again, your gun is for self-defense only. You never attack, you only defend. It's not religion, it's not politics, it's physics. Never, ever, ever give the enemy what they want. The enemy wants you to respond to them in violence, which opens the door in black magic ritual, satanic ritual, physics. They call it quantum entanglement if you really want to look it up. Don't give the enemy what they want, ever. Ever. They want violence, don't give them violence. Give them self-defense. Now, what are the chances of that working? Working at this point in time? 0. We are, after all, cattle. And so tonight I thought we would chat about Descent of Lizards. And not legends, not stories, but histories. Real events, things that actually happened. Legends, we don't look at them and say, well, that actually happened, that's a history. We have to make it look pretty and safe. It's an educational story we tell the young. What if legends, learning stories, educational stories, aren't stories? What if they're actually history? The story I was going to tell you tonight, as I thought about it these last 2 days, has changed dramatically as I followed the evidence, as I put the pieces of the puzzle together. This is a totally different story than the one I thought I was going to tell you tonight. So, Descendant of Lizards. Well, in this particular case, when I say lizard, I mean great lizard or thunder lizard, which is what the word dinosaur actually means. Now, the dinosaurs we know, and again, you can look this up, the dinosaurs were on this earth for 65 million years. Now, in 65 million years, we're supposed to believe that they never evolved into an intelligent, thinking, rational, civilized people. 65 million years and all they did was eat? Now, at the same time, you and I are told that in less than 1 million years, apes evolved into human beings, you and me. If that's the case, why do you and I have almost no DNA in common with apes? Why is that? If that's the case, why is it that we have, you and I, more DNA in our bodies that makes us more compatible with cows and pigs than we do with apes? Why do we, you and I, during the gestation of our existence in the 9 months where we're being cooked in our mother's womb, how is it that you and I, at one point in the gestation period inside of our mother's wombs, we go through a completely reptilian stage of development? We are, you and I, at one point inside of our mother's wombs, we are reptiles. Apes, monkeys, that doesn't happen to them. And I'm told that there's something to do with our tailbone. This part I don't understand. Something about our tailbone is completely different from that of apes. I'll leave that one up for you to research, and then you can tell me. And one of these days, we'll have to chat about why 97% of our DNA in our bodies is what Western scientists call junk DNA. Why do they call it junk DNA? Because as far as scientists can tell, it serves no purpose. It does nothing. Well, it's interesting. Other people say that our DNA actually are only small antennae. And the DNA carries no information other than the fact that it's a receiver, an antenna. This gets us back to the fact that from the center of our galaxy, information is being broadcast to us 1 trillion times a second. Information, energy. And we'll get into that someday. And some people actually believe that the DNA in our bodies carries no information, but they are receivers of information. Who would be broadcasting us information? Well, there's a broadcast from the center of the galaxy that hits us 1 trillion times a second. It's sending information in the form of energy. We'll talk about that someday. Now, I personally don't believe in religion, any religion at all. All religions on this world are created by our masters, and they have only one purpose: to control us. So no, I don't believe or follow any religion. I know from personal experience that you and I, each and every one of us, knows the difference between right and wrong. It's something we're born with, something we're created with. So you and I know the difference between right and wrong. And we each make a choice. We all have free will. And whenever you believe you don't, either you're lying to yourself or someone's lying to you. So no, I do not believe in religion. But that said, I have seen with my own eyes that God, some kind of superior creature, someone way more evolved than you and I, does exist. The fact that I am still alive at the age of 53 after what I've been through is frankly proof for me that there is something greater than us. There's no doubt of it in my mind. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've died several times and quite really wasn't too unhappy with the situation. Frankly, was just relieved it was over. And then suddenly I found myself alive again. That's got to be proof of something. The fact that I was really annoyed to be alive, we'll put that for another day. And on almost a daily basis, I'm guided out of harm's way. But considering the amount of harm that's been done to me, I can't even imagine what something really bad would be. But it's simple things. You know, I'm told don't get into that car, and then the car crashes. That's happened more times than I can remember. I've been told don't cross the street here, cross up the way. And I look behind me where I was going to cross, and the bus goes onto the sidewalk and crushes the place, what do you call it, the bus stop? People sitting at the bus stop, the bench, crushed. I was told very bluntly, don't go to South America. And I was sent to Europe instead. But these sort of things happen every day. They're not earth-shattering events, but they're very obvious and aware. It says, no, turn left, don't go right. And sure enough, if I'd gone right, something really bad would have happened. Again, I can't imagine what really bad would be after what I've been through. But yes, God or something like God does exist. There's no doubt of that. I suspect, however, that what you and I would see as quote-unquote God is just one of our older brothers and sisters. People, human beings from our past, who have evolved from event to event and simply learned a different way of life. And like all, good brothers and sisters, older brothers and sisters, they come home once in a while to check on, their younger brothers and sisters. They have a passing fondness for us. They feel slightly responsible for us, but they have their own lives. But they do take a moment to come back and say hi. Now, if God exists, which I'm sure she does somewhere, I'm equally sure she's too big for you and I to even comprehend. You and I have talked about this before, that you and I, our thoughts create the universe. Well, the universe lives inside of a bubble. You and I live inside of a bubble. Western scientists, again, have finally admitted this. And so if God exists, we create God ourselves, but the same way the cells in your body create you. But every 7 years, every cell in your body dies. But you continue as yourself. You're still you. But your cells come and go. And you're not going to have an individual conversation one-on-one with a cell in your body. The cell would not be able to understand you, or vice versa. So I'm sure God exists, but I'm certain that she's so big, you and I could not even comprehend her existence. And so there are people, again, our older brothers and sisters, over the centuries, the eon, the millennia, who've learned a new way of life and now live at a different frequency, if you will, a frequency that you and I can't possibly comprehend. And they pass information down the line, a conga line of information. You and I can't step out of line and go up a few levels and even have a conversation with the people in the line ahead of us because we don't speak the same language. So we stand in this line, and our older brothers and sisters who left home a very long time ago, they come back once in a while. They bring us toys, candies, they pat us on the head. tell us don't play in the street, and then they go home to whatever life, whatever existence they have. They do not have physical bodies, as far as I can tell, at least not ones that you and I can see, because, and it all gets down to energy, frequency, vibration. We've talked about this before. They exist at a higher frequency than you and I can see on a normal basis. So our older brothers and sisters who left home a very long time ago, they come back, they check on us, but it must be really hard. Can you imagine you've left home, you've gone to college, you've gone off to work, you've created your own life. And then every once in a while you feel obliged to go home and check on the family. And you know how hard that is, because it's a life you left behind. You have changed, you've moved on, you've grown, you've evolved. And it's very tiring to go back and live in the old home, which amounts to really a lower frequency. You have evolved, you've grown, your frequency has increased. So now you have to force yourself to deal back with the old family, the old dog, the old house, your old room, and that pulls you down. You've evolved beyond, so you can't do that too often. It's hard. It's sort of like having an old-fashioned TV set with rabbit ears. And you're living in a city where nowadays all the television shows are broadcast in high definition, HD. So you really can't get any TV shows anymore because your TV set's too old. But you hear about these new TV shows from your friends, your neighbors, but you've never seen them. You know they exist, but you've never seen them with your own eyes because you're not equipped to pick up the signal. Now, I know that you and I are evolving every single day. The question is, what are we evolving into? And it's a really good question. It gets back to free will. What's your choice? So if we're evolving, then God, not religion, reality. If we are evolving and we were made in the image of whatever God there is, and we're evolving, that means that the God whose image we're made in is also evolving too. And again, this isn't religion. I'm trying to use words that we will both understand until we get together, sit down, have a coffee, and come up with new words. But let's just say God exists wherever she is, and she's evolving. And as she evolves, she tries new things. If she created the bubble universe you and I live in, and Western scientists admit that our universe exists in a bubble and has multiple dimensions and all this other stuff. So she created the universe. That was kind of cool. Let's say that God was lonely. She created what we would call angels. Again, this is not religion. This is just a word, something that you and I can visualize. Let's say that God created angels, and naturally enough, she created them in her own image. And let's just say God is so big, her frequency is so high above ours, we can't even comprehend it. It's like the sound that dogs can hear and you and I cannot. It's that frequency above and beyond us. We know it's there, we just can't comprehend it. It's beyond what we can understand. So let's say she created angels, and they would be very high frequency beings, which would mean basically they're mostly energy. The atoms of their body vibrate so quickly. They have the ability to move through walls, through matter. They can move throughout the whole bubble universe, and the whole bubble universe is their home because God wanted some company. And since God made them, the angels, in her own image, she thought they were beautiful. That's perfectly reasonable. And then let's just say, as God continued her evolution, her experiment with life, and thinking that she'd done a really good job with the angels, she then made physical beings, lower frequency. These are folks who actually have to be created in a real world, physical, that you and I would understand. Again, much lower frequency, mortal beings. More limited. They have to, when they travel around the bubble universe, they have to build ships and things. So it's a lot harder work. So they were actually forced to have to evolve. She gave them a task. And since she made them in her own image, she thought they were beautiful. But God herself continues to evolve. Again, please, not religion. These are just words that we can both understand for the moment. Let's say God continued to evolve. She changed. And she decided to give birth again. She created the next children, you and me. Let's call us the third born. Let's call the angels the firstborn. Let's call our older brothers and sisters, in this case, the second born. Let's say that you and I are the third born. But God has continued to evolve over the millennia. Must have been a really long time, because you and I, we know, you and I have been here for 2.5 billion years as men and women, as human beings. There's evidence all over the planet for that. So this must go back a very long way. But here's God, herself, our mother. She's evolving. She's changing. So when she created us, the third born, let's say, she made us in her own image, which means that you and I are much, much, much different than her firstborn children, the angels, or her secondborn children, the first mortal beings. So here's the point of the story. What if, as God evolved, as she started each of these new lives, gave birth to her children, millennia after millennia, evolution or conscious awareness, what if as she continued to evolve, she herself changed? What if God was actually originally a reptile? What if, as a reptile, she created angels, and she created angels in her own likeness, and to her they were beautiful? What if her firstborn children, made in her image, were reptiles? She created a lover for herself, Satan, Lucifer, Yahweh, whatever you want to call her. That means that Satan, or Lucifer, Yahweh, was also a reptile. And since God at that time was herself a reptile, she thought her lover was beautiful. But what if God continued to evolve, to grow, to change? What if her next children, her secondborn, were also made in her image? And at the time, she was a reptile. Still evolving, but at the time, she was reptilian. So let's say her second-born children were also reptiles, made in her image. Quite reasonable. She thought they were beautiful. But what if God continued to evolve? And she evolved. She changed. So when God gave birth again, this time to her third-born children, you and me, she had evolved to the point she was no longer a reptile, no longer dinosaur. She was what we would consider human, if we could see her, if we could comprehend her. Because God is energy. She's probably got a physical form somewhere in the universe, but it's so high a frequency, you and I could never comprehend it. But what if, when she gave birth to you and I, she had now evolved to the point we would consider her to be human? And so you and I were made in her image. But what about her firstborn, the angels say? And again, it's just a word. She gave the angels tremendous power because basically their energy, basically the frequency of their bodies, the frequency at which the atoms of their bodies vibrate is so high, they can move through time and space just by will alone, by thought, as she can. Her firstborn, the angels, her firstborn children, they can move anywhere in the bubble universe at will. What would they think of their new brothers and sisters? You and me. Totally alien to them. Because we were born, or rather, the second-born, the reptile, the physical reptiles that came before us, they were of a lower frequency, and they were reptiles. But then you and I, the third-born, came along. We were physical, and we were human. I'm guessing not too beautiful to a reptile. But we had the same mother, which is an important thing that we will get into. What would God's second-born children think of us, the babies of the family? Made mortal as they are, but we were also made in her image, as the reptiles were, millions, billions of years ago. Also confined to physical form, and we knew death, as our older reptile brothers and sisters knew. But they were ageless, as we were at a time, when the magnetic field of our planet was high enough, when the oxygen content was high enough. We lived thousands and thousands of years, but we did eventually die. But we're the third born. Our mother evolved, and as she changed, her children changed with her. So to the reptiles, we're not beautiful as we are to our mother. We're abominations. Now, why would our older brothers and sisters in this case, the firstborn and the secondborn children of God, we all share the same mother, why would we be hated by them? Despised, loathed, feared, reviled? Because God's lover, Yahweh, Satan, Lucifer, she herself was made in the form of a reptile. And her maker, her lover, her mother, God, Alamak? I can never remember how to pronounce that. I'll think of it in a minute. Her lover evolved and left her behind. Her lover evolved and went someplace where she would not or could not go. The devil. Now at this point, jealousy, rage, hurt, anger, revenge. So how do you hurt a woman who is God? You hurt her children. So the question is, are you and I still fighting a war that started billions of years ago, that had nothing to do with us? A jealous lover, feeling that she'd been left behind by her girlfriend, betrayed that she could not or would not evolve because to her it was wrong. To her, the reptilian form was perfection. The human form is an abomination. So a reptile, thinking that she was the ultimate point of evolution, and that anything after her lover had evolved beyond her, was an abomination. You and me. We are told, according to the masters' religions, their legends go, that demons, quote unquote, who served Satan, Yahweh, were once beautiful angels, and that because they defied God, they were cast out of heaven into hell, and because of that, their physical forms changed. Well, if you live inside of a bubble universe like you and I do, and you were cast out of the universe, where would you go? Nowhere. You are outside of the bubble universe. You're outside of paradise. You're nowhere, in nothingness. I'm guessing that sounds a lot like hell. But what we are told are demons by every mythology, every religion, every history on the face of this planet. What we are told are demons, fallen angels. They look exactly like reptiles who would have evolved over millions and millions of years into intelligent, thinking life forms. The devil is always portrayed as a reptilian creature. Demons are always portrayed as reptilian creatures. So what if our master's hatred of us, of all life, is based on Yahweh, Satan's hatred of her lover, God, who went on to evolve and to change without her, leaving her behind, going somewhere where she could not or would not go? And since angels can evolve too, because remember we talked earlier about the story from the Bhagavad Gita, where Shiva, the god of destruction and creation, told the mortal man, "As you are now, I once was. As I am now, you may one day become." Shiva had been a living mortal woman Whether reptilian or human, I don't know. But she had evolved as a being of light. And that simply means her frequency got higher. That means the vibration of the atoms of her body changed, and they changed consciously because she understood more about herself. She understood more about the universe. And because she understood herself and the universe better than you and I do, she could then travel to other places that you and I cannot even see, cannot even imagine. She could literally see doorways in the universe that she could step through that you and I can't see. But I think the first step, is to know who you really are. And they told us a long time ago what that meant. It meant, I am. I am that I am. I am myself. I am no one else. And I think it all starts there. I think the fact that you and I are caught in a war between a jealous lover, between our two parents, one of whom hates us because we are different from her, because she considered us to be abominations, because we were not made in her image, a reptile. I think it's something that we need to face, because we are in a war. And I don't think we have any choice in the matter. The only choice we have is which of our parents are we going to follow? God, Alamak, that's not how you say it, but it's close enough, or Yahweh, the devil. And again, as usual, the story I was going to tell you today has completely changed from the story I was planning on telling you. Because as I followed the facts of the case, as I pulled all this information in from so many different sources who have nothing in common, seemingly, with each other, and would be horrified if I actually brought this to their attention, the pieces fell together in the puzzle differently than I thought they would. And they tell a completely different story than the story I thought I was going to tell you. Where I thought I was going to go, I didn't go there. And it's much bigger than I thought, the story. And as time passes, I will try and share with you what I know, what I think I know, and what I've seen with my own eyes. A lot of what I've seen with my own eyes, honestly, I've tried so very hard to forget. And the shock mixed with the horror has actually wiped out a lot of my memories, thank goodness. And I'm very grateful for that. But because you need to know, and because I need to understand, and I need to remember, I will try to remember. And I will tell you now, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for either of us. The ancient Celtic blessing actually gives some comfort, and I share it with you. May you live as long as you wish. May you love as long as you live. For the 2012fad.com, this is Charlie Bluehawk. The 2012 Fad is brought to you by Coffee and Blood, Love Letters Between the Dead, a series of 5 erotica horror novels about a fallen angel fighting his way back to regain his own soul, and how the CIA war against the human race, their black magic, captures and traps him in the body of a mind-controlled slave designed to hunt down and to kill their god, their Satan.